The Crusaders believed they had finally outsmarted Salahuddin Ayubi. Inside the fortress of Shawbak, commanders celebrated after receiving what seemed like the most valuable secret of the war, Salahuddin's entire battle plan. They were certain the Muslim army would walk straight into a deadly trap. But while kings and generals prepared for war, something far more dangerous was happening inside the fortress itself. A captured Muslim guard, wounded, bleeding, and surrounded by enemies, had unknowingly changed the heart of one of the Crusaders' most valuable female spies. And if the Crusader commanders discovered the truth, both of them would die. Salahuddin Ayubi's battle plan had reached the enemy before his army even marched. Inside the fortress of Shawbak, Crusader commanders celebrated after receiving what they believed was the most valuable secret of the war, Salahuddin's entire strategy. For the first time in years, they believed they finally understood him, his route, his target, his weakness, and they intended to destroy him before he could even reach Karak. The scholar spy stood before them exhausted from the desert journey, but filled with confidence. "I still do not understand why Salahuddin released us," he admitted. "But what matters is that we escaped with information powerful enough to change this war." The chamber fell silent. Then the scholar began revealing everything he had overheard in Cairo. The military discussions, the arguments between Muslim commanders, the routes toward Karak, the fear of open battle. Every word made the Crusader commanders more confident. Salahuddin himself admitted his army is smaller, the scholar explained. He fears being intercepted in the desert before reaching Karak. At those words, the atmosphere inside Shawbak changed completely. Maps were spread across the table. Officers moved rapidly between commanders. Messengers prepared horses before the meeting had even ended. For years, Salahuddin Ayubi had defeated Crusader armies because no one could predict his movements. But now, they believed his greatest advantage was gone, and that belief was about to change the entire war. Orders spread across Shawbak within minutes. Water sources near Karak would be occupied. Desert routes would be blocked. Fast cavalry units would prepare ambush positions across the valleys and hills. One commander even suggested trapping the Muslim army deep inside the desert, where thirst alone could destroy them. The idea was welcomed immediately. Inside the fortress, confidence began turning into celebration. One officer laughed openly. "For once," he said, "Salahuddin Ayubi has exposed himself before striking." But hidden beneath all that excitement, something far more dangerous had already entered Shawbak itself. A Crusader officer suddenly entered the chamber and whispered something into the ear of Hermann, the German intelligence chief overseeing the spy networks. Hermann's expression changed instantly. "One of the girls has returned," he announced. The scholar spy immediately stood. The commanders followed him outside into the torchlit courtyard. And there, sitting beside a badly wounded Muslim guard, was Lozina. Beside her lay Hadid. Blood had soaked through his bandages again after the brutal journey back to Shawbak. His wounds had reopened during the ride through the desert, and exhaustion had nearly pushed him unconscious. But almost no one looked at him. Their attention remained fixed on Lozina, one of the Crusaders' most valuable intelligence assets. Several officers immediately ordered her inside, but she refused to move. "Treat his wounds first," she said calmly. The courtyard fell silent. Hermann stepped toward her slowly. "What madness is this?" he asked coldly. "This man is your enemy." Lozina looked directly at him. "He saved my life." Hermann's face hardened instantly. "You survived because you escaped," he replied. "Those Muslim guards would have betrayed you eventually." But Lozina shook her head immediately. "That is not true." Then she described the battle. How Hadid chased her captor alone into the darkness. How he fought while already wounded. How he repeatedly ordered her to escape while he stayed behind. Some officers in the courtyard shifted uncomfortably. Others showed no emotion at all. Hatred toward Muslims had become too deeply rooted inside Shawbak. Even after hearing everything, not one commander stepped forward to help Hadid personally. Not even the scholar spy who had traveled beside him through the desert, and Lozina noticed it immediately. That silence disturbed her more than the battle itself. Finally, after repeated demands from her, Hadid was carried away for treatment. Only then did Lozina agree to enter the chamber. Inside, food and wine had already been prepared for her return. But even there, tension quickly returned. Several commanders demanded a full report about her survival. Lozina answered every question calmly, yet in the middle of her report, she suddenly stopped. "Has the wounded guard been fed?" she asked quietly. The room froze. Herman's voice became colder than before. "You are forgetting yourself," he warned. "You have already disobeyed orders twice tonight." But Lozina did not lower her eyes. "He risked his life for me," she replied. "Does that deserve nothing?" One commander slammed his hand against the table. "A Muslim remains a Muslim," he snapped. "Enemy blood changes nothing." Lozina said nothing after that. But something inside her had already begun changing. For the first time in her life, she found herself comparing the honor of her enemies with the cruelty of her own side. And deep down, that terrified her. Because she already knew what happened to people inside Shawbak who began sympathizing with Muslims. But the fortress itself was changing too. By sunrise, Shawbak had transformed into a city preparing for war. Troops moved constantly through the fortress. Weapons were distributed without pause. Supply caravans entered through the gates all morning. Cavalry units prepared for movement toward Karak and the surrounding desert routes. Every preparation centered around one goal: destroy Salahuddin Ayubi before he could strike first. And inside Shawbak, the commanders remained completely convinced they had finally outsmarted him. But far away from the fortress, Salahuddin Ayubi was already waiting for the trap to close. Meanwhile, Lozina could no longer think about war at all. Her thoughts remained fixed on only one man, Hadid. The previous night, Herman had privately warned her again. "You are forbidden from seeing him," he said. "This emotional attachment is dangerous." Lozina asked only one question in return: "Will he survive?" Herman looked at her silently for several seconds. Then he answered coldly, "He will be dealt with." Those words stayed in Lozina's mind the entire night, because deep down, she already knew exactly what men like Herman did to Muslim prisoners. The next morning, despite exhaustion from the journey, Lozina secretly began searching for information about Hadid. Eventually, another spy girl, her closest friend, found her wandering restlessly outside the residential quarters. "You look terrified," her friend whispered. "What happened to you in the desert?" Slowly, Lozina told her everything. Not just the battle, but the feelings that followed it. She described how Hadid refused to dishonor her, even when she had been completely helpless in Muslim custody. How he treated her like an amana, a trust, instead of an object. Then her voice became quieter. "I have spent my whole life manipulating men," she confessed. "Kings, commanders, officers, all of them looked at me with hunger." Her eyes filled with tears. But that Muslim soldier looked at me with respect. Even her closest friend looked shocked. And then Lozina whispered something that frightened even herself. "In one night, I felt more human beside my enemies than I ever did among my own people." Silence filled the corridor. Then finally, her friend revealed the truth. Hadid had not been placed in proper medical quarters at all. He had been transferred to the Muslim slave labor camp outside Shawbak, a place where Muslim prisoners slowly disappeared until no one even remembered their names. Lozina went completely silent. And in that moment, a decision began forming inside her that would soon place her against the very people who had trained her since childhood. Lozina could not sleep that night. Outside her chamber, Shawbak remained alive with military movement. Horses crossed the fortress gates at all hours. Messengers rode through the night carrying orders toward Karak. Blacksmiths worked beside burning furnaces, preparing weapons for the coming battle against Salahuddin Ayubi. The Crusaders believed they were preparing a trap, but inside Lozina's heart, another battle had already begun. Again and again, Hadid's voice returned to her memory. "You are an amana." No man had ever spoken to her like that before. Since childhood, she had been trained to become a weapon. Beauty, charm, deception, those were the tools she was taught to use. Powerful men desired her. Weak men betrayed their own people for her. And the Crusader intelligence network rewarded her whenever she succeeded. But deep inside, she had always known the truth. She was valuable only as long as she remained useful. The desert had changed that. For the first time in her life, someone had protected her without expecting anything in return. and that realization was destroying everything she once believed. The next morning, her closest friend secretly returned with more information. "What I heard is true," she whispered carefully. They sent Hadid to the Muslim labor camp outside the fortress walls. Lozina closed her eyes slowly. The labor camp was feared even among Crusader soldiers themselves. It was not officially called a prison, but everyone knew what happened there. Muslim captives were treated worse than animals. Sick prisoners were abandoned. Weak prisoners disappeared quietly. Many never survived more than a few months, and Hadid had been sent there while badly wounded. But what happened next changed everything. Lozina stood up immediately. "I'm going to him," she said. Her friend grabbed her arm in panic. "Have you lost your mind?" she whispered. "You were already warned once. If Herman discovers this, both of you could be executed." Lozina looked directly into her eyes. "He carried me through the desert while bleeding to death," she replied quietly. "If I abandon him now, then I deserve less honor than the enemies we were taught to hate." Those words stunned her friend into silence. Hours later, disguised beneath a heavy cloak, Lozina secretly left the inner quarters of Shawbak and moved toward the labor camp beyond the fortress. The further she walked, the uglier the reality became. The smell reached her before the camp itself did. Disease, blood, sweat, death. The camp was surrounded by rough fencing and guarded carelessly because the prisoners were already too weak to escape. Thin Muslim captives moved slowly under heavy loads, while Crusader overseers shouted at them like livestock. Lozina stopped walking for a moment. Even after years inside Crusader intelligence, she had never seen this place with her own eyes. And suddenly, she remembered something Salahuddin Ayubi had once told her in Cairo. "Why do you not choose an honorable life instead?" At the time, she had secretly mocked him for those words. Now they returned to her like a wound reopening inside her heart. No one realized what was coming. Using her intelligence rank, Lozina forced the guards to allow her entry into the camp. The soldiers obeyed reluctantly, though several looked confused by her presence there. She searched through rows of exhausted prisoners until finally she found him. Hadid was lying beneath a torn shelter made of rough cloth and wood. His wounds had barely been treated. Fresh blood stained the bandages wrapped around his shoulder and side. Even in that condition, his face remained calm. For several seconds, Lozina simply stood there, staring at him. Then Hadid slowly opened his eyes. The moment he recognized her, genuine shock crossed his face. "You came here?" he asked weakly. Lozina knelt beside him. "They were going to leave you here to die," she whispered. Hadid gave a faint smile. "I am their prisoner," he answered quietly. "What else should I expect?" But Lozina shook her head immediately. "No," she said softly. "What they did to you is wrong." Hadid studied her carefully. For the first time, he truly saw conflict inside her. Not fear, not manipulation, conflict. And that frightened him more than the camp itself, because he understood something she did not yet fully realize. If the Crusader commanders suspected her loyalty was changing, they would destroy her without mercy. That decision would soon be tested. Hadid slowly pushed himself upright, despite the pain. "You should not have come," he warned quietly. "If they discover this, I don't care anymore," Lozina interrupted. The words escaped her before she could stop them. Silence followed immediately. Around them, the sounds of the labor camp continued, chains dragging, men coughing, guards shouting orders. But for a few moments, neither spoke. Finally, Hadid asked the question neither of them had wanted to face. "Why are you helping me?" Lozina lowered her eyes. "Because you treated me like a human being," she answered softly. "No one on my side ever did." Hadid looked away for several moments before replying. "You are still their soldier," he said carefully. "And I am still Salahuddin's man. One act of kindness cannot erase a war." "I know," she whispered. But deep inside, she no longer knew where she truly belonged. Meanwhile, across Shawbak and Karak, the Crusader military preparations continued growing larger every day. Thousands of cavalry were being repositioned along desert routes. Water sources were secured before Salahuddin's army could reach them. Scouts watched every possible path between Egypt and Karak. The Crusaders believed victory was finally close, because they trusted the information delivered by the scholar spy completely. They believed Salahuddin Ayubi was walking directly into their trap, but what they did not understand was that Salahuddin himself had allowed those secrets to reach them. And somewhere far away in Egypt, the Sultan continued preparing his army with complete calm. Night training intensified. Small strike units practiced sudden attacks and rapid withdrawals. Officers studied maps while Salahuddin personally explained desert warfare, ambush tactics, and siege strategies. Again and again, he repeated the same principle to his commanders. Do not waste strength where intelligence can win the battle first. Those words would soon reveal their true meaning. Back inside Shawbak, Lozina continued risking everything to help Hadid secretly recover. She brought him food, water, medicine, and clean bandages whenever she could escape suspicion. And with every meeting, the emotional distance between them became smaller. One evening, Hadid finally asked her something that had been troubling him deeply. If Salahuddin had not released you, he said quietly, would you still believe the Crusaders were right? Lozina remained silent for a long time. Then she answered honestly. Yes, Hadid nodded slowly. That is why Salahuddin released you, he replied. Those words struck her deeply, because she finally understood something terrifying. Salahuddin Ayubi had not merely defeated enemies with swords. He changed people by forcing them to confront their own conscience. And now she herself had become part of that battle. But no one realized what was coming next. One night, as Lozina secretly left the labor camp again, a shadow stepped out into her path. Hermann, the German intelligence chief, stared at her silently for several moments. Then he asked one cold question. How many times have you visited the Muslim? Lozina's blood froze instantly. The moment she had feared since entering the camp had finally arrived. And now, both her life and Hadid's hung by a thread. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, comment, and share this video with others who love authentic Islamic history, and subscribe to Islamic Conquests.